Hello and welcome to another week of PolitiBabble, and we're back this time with yet more on the Chief Minister election, as we now have the two candidates declared to go head-to-head next week. So we're here bringing you all the updates with our meaty grip on the manifestos. So, I'm Archibald Elliott. Oh, I messed it up. I'll just re-record that, it's fine.
It's alright, no worries.
Hello, I'm Archibald Elliott, and this... no, I can't... I forgot to put the mics up as well. Mic 4. Hello and welcome to yet another week of PolitiBabble, where we're back with more on the Chief Minister election, as we have two of the candidates that have been declared, and nominations are now over. I'm Archibald Elliott, and as usual, I'm joined by...
Oliver Sykes. Hello, Archie.
Hello. Yes, so as mentioned, the two candidates, Dr. Alex Allinson and Alf Cannon, have now been nominated and are in the running for Chief Minister, which obviously last week we had no idea who was going to run. There was only speculation, and we have a very good meaty analysis of their manifestos coming up. So yeah, Oliver, what are our initial thoughts on these two candidates?
Well, obviously both of them were in the previous administration, both serving as ministers. Obviously, Alfred did a full 5 years as the Treasury Minister, which is often seen as sort of the because the
protege for
the deputy
yes.
to the Chief Minister. Because I know once the Chief Minister went away or whatever, and Alf covered for him. Anyway, Alex obviously sort of got promoted not that long ago, wasn't it? It was March 2020.
Indeed, yes.
And obviously, previous to that, he was chair of the
Manx Utilities
Board. I both think that they are great and suitable candidates for the role. It's now
very diplomatic.
Yes, now looking down towards the what they're proposing. Obviously, some people might have a personal preference, but realistically, should it come down to that? Should as an MHK be your personal view, or should it be, what your constituents want? Should it be, do they ally up with what you want, or does it ally up with what the constituents want? It's a difficult one.
Well, I think considering we're just after an election, it's kind of, as long as they align with your views, I think, yes, that's who you should vote for. You shouldn't be voting, necessarily your constituents might not want you to vote for that person, but equally your constituency voted you in on your beliefs. So as long as you stick by your beliefs, you can't necessarily go wrong there. And some of the constituency which voted for you might be less vocal on the likes of social media, etc. And as the public, we don't, again, have a public vote. There's a poll currently going on Manx Radio, so do check that out.
And I think the newspapers and
other media institutions are available for you to read. They might just not be as good. But yes, we're seeing quite interestingly. There's a public hustings next week. Not that it has much input, because, again, it's the MHKs who go and vote.
There's also a Manx Radio special programme on Sunday. Yes. As well in the evening. There's I believe, a Studio One televised programme over their channels.
It's the studio that cannot be named for other miscellaneous reasons, which I shall not voice.
Why not?
But yeah, the two manifestos got released. And yes, they've not necessarily been released to the public per se, but they've been posted on all of the MHK's Facebook feeds, basically. So we've got access to all of them, which is really good to see.
And if you obviously want to, going back on, becoming a candidate for Chief Minister, you obviously need to be proposed as well. So we saw Claire Barber propose Alfred Cannon. It's interesting to see who proposes each other. And newcomer to the House of Keys, Michelle Haywood propose Alex Allinson. So you can then sort of see where people are, who they're backing, which is interesting.
At least for two people,
yes,
we can see.
And obviously no previous minister or it'd be quite interesting to see if for instance, David Ashford was backing either one of them, but obviously
he may want to keep that private.
He might want to keep that private for now. And obviously, in the meantime, the candidates are lobbying all the other MHKs to get their vote.
Yes.
Which could be sort of a bit of persuasion, vote for me and I'll give you a ministerial role, or,
Oh, Oliver, corruption in government. Well, crikey, we don't have that here. None of that. No. Yes. But going into the manifesto, something I was surprised, actually, by was that I was very passionate about climate change. I think it's
Are you?
It's surprising, isn't it? But again, the manifesto is kind of put out forward what that candidate thinks the next administration's priorities are. And only one of them put climate change in their manifesto. Alf Cannon. He had a section on climate change. And Alex Allison didn't have anything on climate change. And this was, again, brought up. It was apparently mentioned briefly in his introductory letter, which went out separate to the manifesto. And he said he was going to give a talk to members because he realised he didn't put it in. But again, this is what I would question. Yes, maybe he didn't put it in and maybe he regrets that choice. But it kind of does show where your priorities are, what you're thinking is most important to include in your manifesto. And for him, that's obviously not climate change, which I'm disappointed to see, considering especially in the next 5 years, it's kind of the key part where we can start to deal with climate change. And he hasn't managed to include that in his manifesto, which I think was disappointing to see, at the least. There are a few other things I disagreed with them, but would you have a preference of which one we tackle first, Oliver?
What's this? Sorry.
Manifestos. Which should we tackle first?
Well, I was just going to first of all look upon their slogan first.
Oh, their slogan, yes.
We'll go in
Do read them out.
Alphabetical order. Dr. Alex Allinson. Please vote for Dr. Alex Allinson. The time for change has come. And then we have Alfred Cannon. Alfred Cannon, one government building a secure, vibrant and sustainable future.
Which one? Just blind. I would say blind react to these, but obviously you've read out who they were from. But which one do you think makes a better slogan in your view? Which appeals more to you?
Time for change has come. I don't know. I think the time for change has come.
It's
like
quite cliche.
Yeah, but
slogan,
building a secure, vibrant, and sustainable future. Like, I just don't really like the word sustainable.
Oh, you don't want a sustainable future. We all know where Oliver stands here. Sorry, Oliver. No. I've got to ask you. The door's there. Yeah, I'm sorry, Oliver.
No, I didn't. There's nothing against sustainable future, but I just don't really like the word sustainable. There's just something about it.
Oliver just doesn't like sustainability here. We all know who's to blame for the real causes of climate change and inaction from government level. It's obviously
building
Oliver
a
Sykes.
Secure, vibrant, and sustainable future. I think it's interesting one. I think the best thing about Alex Allinson's is the time for change has come.
I suppose, yes, in some ways it is the best part of the manifesto. It does kind of go slightly downhill, in my view, with my views.
Building a secure environment. I think he could just made it.
It could have made a bit more punch, but it does do what it says on the tin. It's very clear.
It is, yeah,
what he wants to do. Unlike time for change has come. Could that be changing back to how it was 50 years ago, or changing forward in time?
Well, I think he means forward in time. Yeah. Anywho, that was just a little bit of a lightheartedness, to begin. We're going into the real business.
No. We're going into manifesto design. Which one do you think is better? Which do you prefer in design wise?
Well, definitely sorry, I didn't mean to use the word like that, but I like Alex's a lot better.
Really?
Yeah, mainly because I find it a lot easier to read. I like it going crossways, because with Alf's, it's in columns, and you read like 4 lines, and then your eyes have to go down, and it's just not great for my eyes.
I find it interesting, because I personally, as a personal friend, I prefer Alf's because it's very clean.
It's making me sound like I'm very against Alf at the moment, which I'm not. I really like some of his policies.
We'll come to see.
I like both of their policies a lot. But yeah, we'll get to that later on.
Indeed.
I like the triskelion on Alex's. That's really nice.
See, I find when Alex's has text and colour underneath the text. In the triskelion, it does make it, in my view, harder to read, especially dark colours with dark background, and the colour scheme's not consistent every page is different, and it's not like
that's the whole point.
But it's not like it's different to do with the policy, because drug policy overruns, education overruns, housing overruns.
I like Alf's though. He's got the shining through the clouds. You know, that's good.
I like the photo on Alf. It's quite a good photo of the Manx flag. Whether it's been photoshopped or not,
just could be the text could just fill the page a little bit better, and then he probably would win if he just filled the page.
I agree there, Oliver. It's all about filling the page there with the text. Because see, we're addressing the most important parts of the manifesto here: the design. How about the font? Which font do you prefer? I can try and describe the font. I think Alex has gone for more sans serif font, bar the Dear Timwald member in a really odd handwriting-ish font. But again,
I think that's trying to be personable,
you know. Personable, but on the bottom, best wishes is in a larger font size.
It's a good job I took media studies for A-level, isn't it?
Indeed. And then again, he has some it's not very inspiring fonts. And then when he goes from after legislation, he has thanks to Peter Kelly. That's again in a thin version of the original font. And then he has please get in contact with me in bold. Now I'm happy to available on a different colour.
But clearly they've had it designed by someone. Like, I don't think they've done it themselves. I think they've had some support.
Well, looking at one of them, yes, debatable. But again, and then on again, the Alf Cannon has gone for a more I want to say it's a sort of serif.
Yeah, I also must apologise if you hear me clicking quite a bit. It's just because I'm flicking between the pages.
Oliver's turned into a bat and he's just clicking to echolocation the characters on the page.
Sadly, one does not have availability to a PDF document version of these manifestos.
Nor does one.
Yeah, so I'm just clicking and scrolling. So,
but now we can move on, obviously, to the policy-wise. So, who's your vote for manifesto design? You've gone Allenson.
I think Allenson.
Okay, there we are. We're opposing here, so it seems.
But I think
I'll make a list of our voting throughout, just to see.
Okay.
What
slogan. We've gone.
Well, what's your vote for slogan?
Alex.
1 minute. I just need to copy these down. Your vote's for Alex. Mine votes is for Alf. So.
Alfred, please.
Yeah, Alfred. Sorry.
Use his correct full name. Thank you, Archie.
I didn't know I was being faced with the. Mr. Cannon. There we are. Going more full, Oliver.
Well, it's as Rob Callister is said on his Facebook page, 2 very strong candidates, but 2 very different visions for the island, which is important. And I'm, where I stand, I am leaning a bit towards Alex, but I'm leaning a bit towards Alf. It's where I want to go with the future.
I'm sorry. You're mentioning Alf and Alex here. It should be Alexander and Alfred.
No, it should be actually Dr. Alexander.
Yes. Anyway, so slogan. Alex has got your vote, and then manifesto design has got your vote as well. He's leading on your poll. We're opposing ends here.
But it could all change.
It could all change. So can I suggest we open with the opening message. So Alf's entitled his Shaping an Island Plan. So he goes through what the manifesto gives a good introduction, I'd say. He describes how what he wants to achieve in the manifesto, what he wants to describe. So it's creating a transparent style of policy debate, formation of delivery being more secure and vibrant and sustainable islands. He wants to leave a proactive government, engages the community, respects opinions, challenges where necessary. It was set up at a high level of principles and ideas that will provide the foundation for the Common and a new island plan. He set out his personal policy agenda in his election manifesto, but the role of Chief Minister is a different one. If it's supported by the House of Keys, he'll work with colleagues. Significant changes on island security must be a key theme in responding to the COVID pandemic. Looking at facing significant burdensome rising gas prices, adding pressure for household costs, and I guess the government will have to act to address these. And Timwell must rise not only to meet the challenges, but deliver on opportunities. And he wants a focused island plan as the key aspect here.
That is just inspirational.
Oh, you sound sarcastic there, but do read out Alex's, indeed.
I shall.
Or describe. Surmise it for us.
Okie dokie. Let me just get that up. Alex Allenson, the time for change has come. In a very fancy font. Dear Tynwald member, the recent general election has seen further evolutionary change to our Parliament, which truly reflects the population we serve. We have greater diversity, age and skills throughout Tynwald than ever before. So he's now saying that it's time to use this energy to bring along lasting progressive social change. I've never seen Alex Allenson go so progressive,
so liberal in it. Yes.
Maybe he needs to team up with his fellow member, honourable member for Ramsey, Mr. Hooper, and form the Ramsey Liberal Vanning Party,
yes. Which aligns with the USSR. Yes.
So, I aim to reset government's relationship with media to improve communication and community with our community. I believe that we need a new style of leadership which is more open, more inclusive and less defensive. They're really hitting out on what the last administration's been.
Really fascinating, considering he's a former minister.
They've got to put themselves out there, though, and align with what the public want. So he says in this statement, I'm just going back and forth here, really picking out the nice bits.
Key parts.
Yes. In this statement, I've tried to set out the foundations for a programme for the next administration which aims to tackle some of the inequalities in our society while safeguarding and improving the lives of all members of our community. He talks a lot about being committed to social change and building a fair and more equal, more sustainable society. Oh, there's the word sustainable again.
But he does mention climate change. How interesting.
I will...
Well, he wanted to create a deputy minister role rather than departmental members as well.
Yeah, I aim to commit a review of the extent of my collective responsibility. I aim to undertake a significant reshuffle in 2024. Right.
Interesting.
As parliamentarians, we need to have the opportunity to further develop skills and experience to represent our constituents. So basically, you're getting a bit run down now at 2024. I'm just going to shuffle you out.
Sorry. That statement alone there, I think that's a dangerous precedent to saying he was is a aim to undertake a significant reshuffle. It's not like a minor reshuffle where they might move a minister or two out or around. A significant reshuffle. So we need to be careful, because if you pick a good team of ministers to start and they do a good job for 5 years or even 3 years, surely you'd want to keep them in place because they're doing such a good job. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a good thing to aim for.
I like the bit that he's added there on deputy minister.
Yeah, that part's good.
That's good, because the problem is that we see too often departmental members, in the firing line, being an apologist for the government.
Rather, it should be someone of a position and should have actual title. But interesting, it was part about the extent of collective responsibility. Collective responsibility its extent is already defined. I think it's very important to keep it that way. Otherwise, we might see ministers in the next administration then vote against the government on policy they just disagree with, not their prior commitment.
This is an interesting one to have in your introductory statement. I'm trying not to go too long onto this, but I have done. I will make it easier for members to take on roles and explore options such as job sharing at ministerial level settings. That is ridiculous.
So we'll have a minister for Treasury, Health, Enterprise, Infrastructure, Home Affairs and Justice. And then we'll have Home Affairs and Justice are the same. And then we'll also have another minister for the same lot and another minister for the same lot, because they're just all ministers. They're not ministers of the department, they work around all departments. They're all intertwining job-sharing ministers.
I think what he's trying to say is, the health minister's gone off to have a baby. We'll put another health minister in, so they can job share. That's a bit weird.
That's a weird statement to add.
Sittings should be more aligned with school holidays, and the hours we work should not automatically exclude those who have caring responsibilities for others. Well, I'm afraid that, if you're going into this job, you need to be committed.
Well, I'd say, it might sound harsh of me, but when you're in politics, your duty is to your constituents.
Indeed.
So, whilst there's a degree of that, aligned with school holidays and the hours we should work should not automatically exclude those with caring responsibilities to other. So does that mean Tynwald can no longer sit until 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening when it has important policy to pass, because we must allow people to go and care for others? Yes, I can see the point there. I wouldn't say that's a.
I think the problem that
it's not the job of Parliament.
I think the problem that he's made in this introductory statement is he's gone too much into sort of ideas.
He's gone too much bold and not being able. He's not explained them so far. So maybe we will see later in the manifesto some key aspects there.
I just think it's a very sort of Marmite thing to do. You know, you're going to see.
He's going to divide the middle. He's not uniting.
Well, what people are going to see is deputy departmental member. You know, that's one of the first things that he says we need to have. That's a bit of not a main thing really to have. People just go, I'm not going to read that.
Yeah, but a deputy departmental member who. He's abolishing departmental roles, and the deputy minister must answer questions from Tynwald.
Yeah.
If I was in Parliament and I was like, I want to be a backbencher, but I'm happy to contribute. Not backbencher. I want to contribute to the department, but I don't really want to be scrutinised on it because it's not my decision. I just want input.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take that up because I don't want to be questioned.
Well,
so
I just found it a bit. I just found it a bit bizarre how reshuffle. People will just go, that's awful. Anyway.
So now ministers will be like, well, I know I'm in this ministerial position for 3 years, and then I get him booted out because he's doing a reshuffle.
I might as well just do nothing.
Exactly. Why bother?
Anyway, so we'll take a vote on the introduction, shall we?
Yes. I'd say Alf.
Because
he's been he's a bit more there's a lot more unity.
It's a lot more clear.
It's a lot more clear.
Anywho, we'll move on to page 1 then of
each manifesto.
Each manifesto.
So Alf starts us off.
I did spend a long time on Alex there, didn't I? I always drain things out.
Yes. But how many pages do they have? Is it equal?
I think there's 4 or 5. Well, actual pages of content, excluding the. Okay, there might be 3.
Oh no, they're about the same amount. Yeah, they're the same amount, so that's fine. We can go page by page. So Alf starts his off with. It's quite nice page design actually, with with a logo and then with the island its sheetings, and then
it's not a lot. It's not a lot.
It's not.
So it's not going to overface
but
you.
It's to the point.
Yeah.
That's on design front. But he says this is about enhanced strategy and policy decisions. It's getting straight to what,
and there's a couple of bullet points.
And it's
That's
straight
really
to what
good.
it's straight to what is needed, kind of in an administration. So it says the relationship between Coman, Tynwald, and government departments needs to change. I think that's good. He wants to create better forums, not only for open policy debates and agreements, but making sure more cohesive policy is being delivered across the government. He wants a Tynwald conference proposed in September annually to allow public interaction and debate on key issues.
Excellent.
That's quite interesting.
Really interesting.
The island plan to be debated annually and amended accordingly by Tynwald.
That's very good.
That's keeping up to date on the plan, which I think is good. Every department and board must produce an annual report for Tynwald debate, scrutiny and approval, led by the minister or chairperson.
Excellent.
That's what we're missing.
This
currently.
is what we need.
These will be tabled regularly throughout the parliamentary year. The reports will lay out clearly the actions undertaken by the department, the positive impact on the island, and determine and justify staffing levels.
Excellent.
Collective responsibility can be relaxed. Again, these both departments have mentioned that, but I think Alf here has mentioned how by Coman vote to allow for more substantial policy debate. These enhanced actions will ensure there's a higher quality engagement in scrutiny and delivery, and a diverse range of inputs will help deliver better outcomes for the community we serve. So he's really there focusing. I think this is the first page. I think would always be what you most care about and what you want to put forward. So he's wanting a more transparent government that's more accountable and has better justification for everything it does. It makes more logical sense.
He's put a little picture of the Isle of Man there, and then
quote,
and then a quote which says, "I seek to lead a government that engages across the community, respects opinions, challenges where necessary, and strives for success." So that's another little sort of catchphrase he's put in again there. I just thought it'd be nice to.
Now we've got Alf. No, not Alf. Alex. So I thought that was an interesting. I quite like that opening page from Alfred. It was pretty good, I would say. So Alex says it should not be the role of the next Chief Minister to set their own manifesto and programme for the new government. Their role is to create a collective vision taking into account views and aspirations of all members. They then need to select a team to help take this vision forward and making sure the parameters of collective responsibility allow for effective governance. I believe in a socially progressive administration committed to delivering outcomes that improve the lives of those living on our island.
Do you think Alex has gone a bit more liberal because he realised how many votes Laurie got?
Maybe, but also maybe he's trying to appeal to the Manx Labour Party in the administration.
Ooh,
that could be one. But I find something very interesting there It should not be the role of the next Chief Minister to set their own manifesto and programme for government. That's where I think the fundamental flaw underlines there. Because Alf said, this is what I want to achieve. Alex has said, this is what I want to achieve, but it's not my role to set out what I want to achieve.
Because
it's contradicts himself.
Because it's the role of the Isle of Man civil service a month before the election.
But equally here, create a collective vision. No, you need to stand by your vision. Say, this is what my vision is. This is what I believe in. Otherwise, you're leading a government which you don't believe in. You're creating policy you don't believe in. So that's a fascinating aspect there, I think. He then addresses with intergenerational fairness.
He always goes
on with that. Just like the prior Chief Minister, outgoing Chief Minister, our best friend Howard Quayle, about intergenerational fairness and how we shouldn't pay for the pension fund, etc. All of that. He goes on about that as well. He said the worldwide pandemic has exposed inequalities and problems in our society. We're relatively wealthy.
We are
nation.
Immensely wealthy.
Many struggle to make ends meet. Sudden illness and unemployment can plunge them to debt and financial hardship. This can affect young people, working families, pensioners, in fact, any of us. Interesting phrasing on the end there. Any of us. Then why say young people, working families, pensioners, in fact, any of us? Just say, this can affect any of us. Keep it short and concise here, because the problem is, I think there's a lot of unnecessary filler here. It's not this first page is not quite the bullet point standard which we saw in Alfred's. So then we saw employment and pay. He said access to training, lifelong learning, reskilling can help support people getting better jobs. I will ensure the readily accepted 5-year DESC strategy is adequately funded with improved access to part-time and subsidised courses. Childcare Strategy Group reporters Drew will trigger a debate on provision of affordable, accessible preschool care. He wants to make it again seem family-friendly, the islands. MHK was part of the committee investigating how 0 hours contracts are used locally, commission legislation. Support the theme to gradually increase the minimum wage to match living wage. Similarly, benefits, especially employed personals allowance, will need to be more realistic. Not acceptable, some families have to rely on food bank. Child benefit be increased. Extra support given for those on low incomes. Responsibility to those leaving care must be recognised by a corporate parenting strategy. So this is here. It's fascinating when he put in his introduction. It's not my role to set out my own manifesto and programme for the new government. What has he done? He's set out his own manifesto and programme for the new government. That's I find confusing.
Their role is to help create a collective vision.
But he's not. He's prescribing a vision of what he supports. I don't see he's contradicted what he set out in his first paragraph, really, and that's not something which I say sets a good tone. We'll be seeing an administration, if he's in charge, with lots of U-turns. Possibility. Who knows? Again, with the minimum wage to living wage, I think there's always a gap between the minimum wage and living wage. If you increase the minimum wage, then eventually you'll see prices of stuff go up because people can afford more. Just like in Switzerland, how the cost of living is more, so the wage is more. That might happen here, and then we'll need a new living wage. It doesn't necessarily work exactly, having a minimum wage up to living wage standard. And even if we're looking at that, those on minimum wage jobs quickly usually will move up. If they're in the right sort of job, they will move up, or they can reskill and they can gain higher than minimum wage, which I think is a better method than doing, rather than penalising small businesses who maybe work off paying their employees minimum wage because they can't afford more whilst they're getting started.
Indeed. Well, we'll move on to housing, and then we'll go straight on to Alex.
No, we're going to the next Alex and then Alfred. Just so we have continuity where we're comparing.
Absolutely, and that will that lead us then on to a final page for
we're doing.
Okay, so
housing.
We'll go housing. Young people are increasing.
Oh, this is Alex Allenson.
Sorry, we're sticking with Alex for now. Young people are increasingly unable to afford their own homes and find it very difficult to save enough for a deposit whilst also paying rent. The first-time buyer scheme is not working for them, and I'll bring this up in date of terms of income and price thresholds. A mortgage deposit guarantee scheme should be consulted on with lenders and costed. We need to measure and monitor key metrics, including some inequality, housing cost to earning ratio, and average earnings, that we can ensure our policies.
It goes on to the next page.
Does it?
Yes, it does indeed.
How I will deliver a comprehensive housing strategy. This needs to be implemented by a deputy minister.
He's liking these deputy ministers.
We don't have a deputy minister.
Wait. What does the minister do then?
Yeah.
Everything's going to be implemented by the deputy minister, it seems. He'll be looking to partner with the Manx Development Agency to offer buy-to-rent, rent-to-buy, and mid-rent options, ensure there's enough planning enforcement resources to make the system fair again. The secret list of historic buildings should be published. Affordable housing should include the rental sector, and new administration must be bringing a reform of the rate system within the first 100 days. Something here I find quite interesting is he's going on about the Manx Development Agency to offer rent-to-buy and mid-rent options. Does that mean the government's now getting involved in the housing market beyond social housing? Is that what he wants to achieve?
I don't entirely know.
Well, pensions is next. Easier access to pensions for self-employed through a thorough review of the national insurance system and ability of SMEs, not small, medium employers maybe, to join a comprehensive defined contribution scheme with auto-enrolment. Significant work has been done to address the cost of the public sector pension scheme, but I ensure it's audited and regularly reviewed. Essential the island continues to be able to retain and recruit the best nurses, physiotherapists, midwives, doctors, teachers, engineers, and other frontline staff.
For physiotherapists, is that essential?
But I question here, the island should continue to retrain and recruit all of the sectors, because if you don't have other sectors, what is it good having nurses, physiotherapists, midwives, doctors, teachers, engineers? We need the other services which actually provide most of the island's industry.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it does seem not necessarily so useful. The economy is next, which is obviously very important. What do you think on pensions, first of all?
I'm not sure, really. I think, well, it's not very clear. You're talking more about recruitment there.
It's an interesting manifesto so far. Well, he's got here the economy, despite the human and financial cost of the pandemic, without pivotal points, rhetoric. The KPM economic strategy review is due. Commit to implement it and regularly review our progress in growing and diversifying business on Ireland. Interesting here. Yes, I'd wait till the KPM economic strategy is due. I'd then look at it and then look what I can implement. I wouldn't necessarily say I will commit to implementing it because he hasn't read it. You're committing to have something which hasn't yet come out or been scrutinised.
Ah, sorry.
That's I find
there we go.
odd.
I've just zoomed in on the picture, so it's a lot easier to read now. I'm not
That's
squinting.
Helpful.
I'm not squinting no longer.
But interestingly, he's committed to basically, if he gets in, implementing KPM economic strategy without reading it. It'll be interesting to see what Alpha says on this.
I will start an analysis of our current open skies policy, which will give accessible and affordable routes to economically important destinations such as London. I will ensure that the TT 2022 relaunches our island as the road racing capital of the world.
Ooh. Yeah, however, yes, I may sympathise with Manx view this as the world racing capital of the world. I wouldn't call it the road racing capital of the world. Motorbike maybe, but world racing, we'd be looking at the Monaco F1, the Grand Prix.
Road racing, I think by that they mean open roads.
But it is, they are on roads in
capital of the world. Well, I think
the Monaco Grand Prix.
Well, I'd argue that it is the road. It's been referred to many times as the road racing capital of the world, Archie.
Let me put into Google.
I reckon it'll be the Isle of Man.
Isle of Man, but I'm on a Isle of Man thing, so it says it's the great. But again, they're all biased websites which come up. Visit Isle of Man says that. Yeah. IOMTT says that. TT website says that. Visit IOM. They're all Isle of Man things which say that. So it's no wonder they're biased there. But in personal view, I wouldn't describe it as the road racing capital of the world.
Well, they've clearly claimed it, Archie. So
they've claimed it.
Anywho, yes, we've got a bit more. I'm just trying to scroll back down. I will change. I'll just skip down a little bit. I will change the way the 2021-2022 budget is devised so all members can see the bids from departments and understand the priorities of the government and allocation of taxpayers' money. Zero-based budgeting will be established in areas of statutory service provision. That's clearly where Michelle Hayward
probably is
gone for in there. And does the Speaker get a chance to vote or not?
I assume so, yes. Well, actually, not sure.
Because it's just House of Keys now, isn't it? I reckon if it's a divide, he will get to vote in his favour or whatever. Yeah, I will create a major unit which a major project unit which uses the best resources from DOI, Treasury, and the private sector, but which delivers our objectives on time and within realistic budgets. The structure of DOI needs further review to create operational delivery, such as that's not really an economy, is it?
We'll move on to Alf's now.
Yeah.
I should read through the cross-government work. He's got more before he gets onto his priorities, so not even education, etc. yet. So this is all about cross-government work. So Alf's focusing a lot here on how the function of government and how it's going to function in the next administration, which isn't actually really done in Alex's manifesto. So Alfred's done here. He's gone first of all with the enhanced strategy and policy decisions. Now he's gone with cross-government working. So COVID's apparently taught us that government can work across departments. He wants a definitive policy and strategy unit formed in the Cabinet Office to work with ministers, develop kind of quite overarching policy which links everywhere. The Treasury can consult with the strategy unit on budget priorities and bids. COVID response to be re-examined, new refreshed COVID response group, new economic development board, new project boards to oversee and scrutinise government infrastructure projects. Or if DOI is reformed, this could all be part of the infrastructure board. Climate change board makeup and response should be reassessed. So I'm quite liking here. He's focusing on how government's working to start, because he's obviously recognised that it's currently a broken system and wants to change and revamp some of it, which Alex hasn't actually pointed towards.
No.
Alex has gone very much on, I'm not here to dictate policy to you, but I'll go and dictate policy anyway.
He contradicted
himself. It's all about not dictating policy. He'd be going on this front and this angle of saying cross-government working, or saying we need to reform government, we need to reform the civil service, we need to reform how things work, rather than going on a policy-led front.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. The next part of Alf's is delivery. So he's saying delivery matters, whether it's a bus service or whether it's getting people to work. The end result must work for the people. Government exists predominantly to serve the people. Culture should be one of people first. Ministers should openly, transparently be able to appoint relevant and experienced board-level advisors from outside government. The DOI should be broken up into smaller accountable operation delivery bodies.
So we've just heard that again.
Cabinet Office has again led business resolution group, should be in conjunction with the relevant departments, everything. So he's basically going through, it should go from Tynwald to the Coman, to cross-government policy strategy unit, to the department to board to delivery, and back to Coman. That's the loop circle he's given. Which is good. I can now move on to his actual island priorities, which then we can compare with Alex's. So, first of all, is about the economy, business and jobs, which is it's been immense effort across the business community to navigate COVID, been his job as Treasury Minister to deliver the furlough scheme, etc. The ERC, Economic Recovery Group, ERG, commissioned a new economic strategy for the island. A legacy project such as Eurosport 2023 will provide a substantial boost for our tourism and domestic education. Well, education-wise, the island's education system has met the needs of your young people seeking development skills. Education remains of very vital importance. So again, he's talking about the new initiatives at UCM, increased graduate partnerships. He's looking at more provision of childcare. Again, these are much the same as Alex's.
Yeah,
the policy itself is very similar, but what we're looking at is a difference in how it's going to be implemented.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at.
It's a lot about UCM, and there's not much about, they don't
there's not... Both of them are very similar in these two here. And then he talked about healthcare. He's been looking at overspending and performance issues. So he's looking at addressing how waiting times can be reduced, testing elderly, work carers, etc. Means testing, nursing home fees, final diagnosis screening, COVID response. He said we're now on the endemic of the island with our, I've not zoomed in, with the long term remains the risk that we need to take immediate measures, etc. He's looking at a new COVID response group to meet kind of emergency basis, so like the UK has Cobra, and infrastructure. He's looking to maintain the upkeep of basic infrastructure around us. Strong argument
it's
to
very
reform
interesting.
the Department of Infrastructure.
It's very interesting how he comments there on, COVID response group to meet and coordinate recovery and improve transparency around decision making. And it really sort of seems to open up now, is these ministers will open up about what's happened in the past 5 years, especially if you're going for Chief Minister.
Yeah.
You've got to, as to what on earth's happened over the past 5
like
years.
I quite like Alf so far. It's focusing more on what he wants to reform in government to make it work better.
Yeah.
Alex has said he needs to work better, but not how, which doesn't show clear vision.
No, that's right, yeah.
But then again, he then goes on to. I'll just read through the rest of his policy. Climate change. He wants to. It reminds. He says it's a global crisis. Presents to improve our energy strategy. He said, yes, this global crisis has been evident, but it allows us to actually do better with it. It's the climate change plan was an integral part of the Ireland plan, and most important, it's well thought through and costed. Which I think he's very good again here with his climate change. He wants to build back better, almost, to use the Boris phrase. But again, Alex hasn't mentioned anything on climate change or the environment.
Yeah,
in his manifesto, which is disappointing. Yeah. Housing, he's again done the same, nearly of Alex, but he wants to introduce a housing communities minister. I think that's a good idea to address the situation.
Yeah, it's so funny going back to sort of the terms of what they've sort of included in there. I know it's going off on a bit of tangent as usual, but how sort of Alex went into, we'll come to it, talking about drugs, but he didn't get climate change in there, you know.
Yeah. But again, Al's got another section on agriculture and environment, saying that we need to look at land management, reduce flood risks, sequester carbon, increase biodiversity. He seems to be a much more rounded candidate, I think. And then budget for success, obviously he's about the budget, and he's looking at reviewing social security support, recommendation for poverty, etc., max minimum wage, living wage, same as Alex. But he's more standing.
The only thing that he hasn't really, that I'd like to see really as part of a budget for success, which is probably what the title of the next one's going to be, isn't it? It's going to be something ambitious again. What did they say last time? It was a budget for.
I can't remember.
I can't remember what it was. You were there, weren't you? You were at
I was commenting on it. I was doing
buildings.
I
can't remember what it was. Anyway, should we move on to Alex's final comments?
Yeah, we'll go on his final policy, at least. Yes, if we just skim through it, because we're running out of time.
Oh goodness!
So if we start on health, and drug policy, yes.
Indeed. So in health, it's vital to increase investment in primary care. The last 18 months have shown the importance of local services. As parliamentaries, we need to have regular updates from Manx Care and be assured of the adequate political oversight from DHSC to ensure that strategies and policies are being delivered. He wants to commission a mental health recovery strategy. Because there's lots of problems going on. He says that the early intervention is essential. Our capacity and mental health legislation will be updated, and I will revamp our legislative programme. Many older people are fearful of the cost of social care, and he's going to work with the constabulary for mental health support workers. I will not shy away from targeting tax increases which are ring-fenced to adequately support our NHS. I'll review the upper thresholds for NI contributions and reform the over-complex system we have on the basis of the PwC report. Drug policy.
Yay.
I will reverse the decision to allow import licences for medicinal cannabis and ensure that this is available on prescription in registered pharmacies.
Not allow, by the way, not allow.
Sorry. Oh,
he was reversing the decision not to allow import licences.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. I will reclassify the cannabis. I will reclassify cannabis as a Class C drug immediately as a step to decriminalisation, and individuals granted the licence to grow a small number of plants at home for personal use. Okie dokie. I think that's the end of that there. Drug abuse needs to be treated as a medical problem rather than the criminal use. I'll commission a strategy to the legalisation of recreational use of cannabis within a firm regulatory framework, and also bring in a minimum price for alcohol.
I dislike his drug policy section because once you decriminalise it, it starts to then become more widespread. And I'm against it becoming widespread. So, out of my more socially conservative standpoint on that, on drugs at least, I have a social conservative stance. I think.
Well, I disagree with you there on that point, Archie.
I must say we'll have this debate. This will be coming up later in our when we move on to our series 5 out of the Manx Mini-Series. We will come on to drugs policy.
We should probably come on to some social issues.
Oh, don't worry, we're coming on to social issues, Oliver.
We will.
And, the facts don't care about your feelings, as Ben Shapiro says.
Okie dokie. Well, yeah.
So it's been interesting. Alf didn't mention drugs, but he mentioned climate change, which is arguably more important than drug policy.
Yes.
So that is fascinating. Again, he doesn't have an ending statement, but we see Alf has a nice ending statement. Contrary to a popular belief, the Chief Minister is not an autocratic position, but one of a collective group of individuals brought together in the shape of both Tynwald, Count Coman, to deliver a better future for the island. But he says it needs clear and collegiate leadership. He said it's not just about Coman, it also carries a multitude of responsibilities, ensuring everyone's heard, and obviously representing the island. I do not set out with this manifesto to predetermine the eventual will of Tynwald in developing an island plan, but he said there's a need to be build overseas relations, explore opportunities internationally, which he wants to take, which I think is very, very good.
Yeah.
And he gives a bit about him, which I think is quite nice, which again Alex doesn't do. So
he just says, if you want to meet me, meet me.
Meet me. But I'm not going to tell you who I am. You have to guess. And you should know, but you have to guess. So overall, who do you think has a better policy for what he wants government overall to achieve, and then better in the individual policy sections? So overall, like Alf had what he wants.
Yeah.
Reform of government.
Yeah. Alf.
Who do you think did better reform of government?
Alf.
Okay. I agree. I also think Alf. I'm definitely not following a key theme here. How about the individual policy points?
Alf.
It seems we're both in agreement here. Interesting. And then ending statements. Only one gave one, but you know. Actually, no, two. They gave another one. But yeah, ending statements.
Alf.
We're following a key theme here. So anything else on the manifesto you want to add?
Not entirely. I was just going to say that if either one of them does not become Chief Minister...
Is that possible?
Well, that will be the case, that either one of them won't be.
Oh, I thought it meant if they both didn't become Chief Minister.
Well, the only way that would work is if everyone voted no.
They won't do.
Anywho, whether they will either become a minister for each other...
I think they've shot themselves in the... Alex has shot himself in the foot with very strong, bold policy decisions.
Yeah, you've got to be though, haven't you? You can't follow the same path as Alf.
I think I'd imagine
go
probably, because they're both capable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So who's our preferred candidate then? Who's our PolitiBabble poll saying?
Well, it's definitely Alfred, isn't
it? There we are. That's our PolitiBabble opinion for you. Whether we're right or wrong, we have obviously no influence on the final vote, unfortunately. Bar the bribing. Obviously a joke there. We don't bribe people. Just a disclaimer there. But yeah, that's our final answer. Unfortunately, we can't fit in current affairs this week because we've gone deep into...
Oh.
Government,
that is a shame. Well, we'll kick straight off with them.
We'll kick straight off those. Well, next week we'll be back to our usual. This is the last of the Manx Mini-Series.
Is it?
Because next week the Chief Minister's going to be elected.
But then we'll have Coman, won't we, to discuss, or maybe not?
Well, we'll discuss that in the Manx Current Affairs section of next week's episode.
Oh.
But yes, hope you've enjoyed this Manx Mini-Series for election. Election time.
And obviously, if you are watching and you do have, if you do want to be in part of our next series, and you want to
get this far into the podcast, you probably want to be.
Yes. You need to get your name down, and you need to know what topic you want to discuss and get in touch, because we need to get you booked in. On a
topic, we can assign one to you.
Yeah, if you just want to chat,
come on. Yeah, let us know.
We're happy to help you. Well, hope you've enjoyed the Manx Mini-Series.
Indeed.
And if you want another Manx Mini-Series in the future, do let us know.
And we won't be doing one. Joking.
I love the Manx Mini-Series.
Well, yes, thank you for listening to this wonderful episode of PolitiBabble.
It's been fantastic.
Yeah, we're going to be back next week with some new different ideas. Maybe it'll be drug policy after all. Who knows? social political issues, I think.
I love the social political issues.
Unless you want to address the joyful topic, which I like, of tax. But,
I thought you were going to say conservatism.
Conservatism? No, Oliver, that's just a podcast. Or at least in the eyes of your fellow peers at school, that is. But yes, hope you've enjoyed this episode of PolitiBabble. You can find more and past episodes on manxradio.com/podcast/PolitiBabble. Well,
you've been PolitiBabbled.
I think the music didn't play at the end there. I left it too low. But, there you go.
Goodness. Is this because...